Hey guys, so this video is basically going to be about my miscarriage and the process of what happened to me. I'm going to let you know now, it's going to be graphic, it's going to be detailed. I'm laying it out there so that, you know, those who come to this video wanting to know, like I did, when I did my research, am I miscarrying, what's going on, why am I bleeding? You can kind of get an idea of what could happen and what did happen to me, so you guys are prepared and kind of have some insight into what happens in a miscarriage. Every single miscarriage is different. They can be, you know, real early. They can be real late in a pregnancy. And as I said in a previous video, most first trimester miscarriages are due to chromosomal abnormalities. So it's something you can't help. There's nothing wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing you can really do to stop it. So what happened, I left off in my last video basically talking about when my cramping and physical pain began, and it was Tuesday, May 24th. It was 8 o'clock at night. I started to actually get some cramping, some soreness, and some lower back pain right in this chair. I was just at home resting from all of the spotting that had been happening for the last couple days, and I took the time to rest, and normally I feel fine. But it started up, and I knew what was coming just because those are signs, along with the bleeding, that are letting you know that you may be miscarrying. So Darren got home around 11-ish, and around 11:30, sometime between 11 and 11:30 that night, is when I was using the restroom, and I called him upstairs and I let him know basically that it was starting. Of course, you know, even through a miscarriage, you know, you pray that everything is going to be okay and that, you know, this is just something happening, but the baby's okay. So I still held on hope, you know. I mean, you have to until you know it's absolutely, you know, a final thing. So that started. My cramping kind of got a little worse, but it wasn't terrible. It was kind of like a period. And when I have my normal periods, I've never really suffered from heavy periods, long-lasting periods, or painful periods. I really don't get cramps or sore boobs or any of the signs of your period coming. So it was like a standard period for most people. So yeah, there was some pain involved. So we stayed up, and I just kept having to pee. And like for the last couple days that this was all happening, I was just peeing all the time. So I got up many times to go to the restroom. Every time, yes, there was blood. And we decided to go ahead and call it a night around 2 a.m. We both had Wednesday off. So it's 2 in the morning. I go to sleep. 4 o'clock in the morning, I get up and I have to pee. And I didn't get out of bed fast. I didn't like jump up. I didn't do anything to make myself dizzy or anything. I just sat up like normal, walked right into the bathroom, which was, it's like 6 feet away from my bed. And I sat down and I started to go. My body started to go into shock. And what was happening was both my bathrooms, when you turn the light switch on, it runs the light and the fan. So I was sitting there and my ears began ringing, and it was a gradual but quick, loud, buzzing, ringing noise. it took over my hearing. I could barely hear anything, including like the fan that was going on in the bathroom. And all of a sudden my vision, I had the light on, but my vision started to get real dark and blurry. I couldn't see very well, if at all. And then I felt all of my limbs just go numb. And I wasn't wobbling while I was sitting there, but I could tell if I didn't get Darren awake now, I was going to black out because of the fact that my hearing was gone, my whole equilibrium because of the hearing. I could just tell I was in, like, it felt like my head was swimming, like underwater. So I reached for the light, I shut it off so I could hear him over the fan and over the ringing and everything. So I shut it off, and I just kept saying, honey, honey, and I was trying to get him to wake up. It's 4 a.m. I don't want to scream. I live in an apartment, so I didn't want to startle anyone else, but I finally got his attention, and I got him to come in as quick as possible because I was passing out. And what it ended up being was my body going into shock. That's when it all kind of started. Actually, bam, miscarriage is happening. So he came over to me, and I was conscious enough to tell him, I'm going to go. I don't know what to do. And in my head, I knew what was happening, but I was panicking because I was like, what do I do? Like, I can't stand up. I'll fall right over. I could hit my head in the tub. I could hit a wall. I could do anything. I don't know what to do. And I was like, I'm losing myself. Is it safer for me to pass out? So I don't know where he got the cup. I swear, I don't know how he got a cup so quickly, but he got a cup, filled it with water, and had me start drinking it pretty slowly. So I was taking sip after sip. And slowly, as I got that into my system, the first thing that started to come back was my vision. My limbs came back. They were no longer numb. But my vision started to clear back up. It wasn't cloudy. It wasn't dark. And then my ears probably took about 5 to 7 minutes, though, to come back. Like, I could hear him, but the ringing and buzzing noise was so overwhelming. That's why my equilibrium was, like, so screwed up. Ooh, excuse me. Total burpage today. So, thank God that I came back that quickly, because I can't even explain to you how terrified I was. I've never blacked out or passed out in my life. So it's one of those things where I was like, am I dying? I immediately thought that I was hemorrhaging and I was going to pass out and possibly die. So that's why I was like, I need Darren here now, because if I pass out and I hemorrhage, I could literally die. So I came back. I gathered myself. I sat there for probably 10 minutes. I just stayed sitting on the toilet, just trying to stabilize myself. He stayed there with me. And once I was breathing fine, my hearing was starting to come back better, I told him I'm okay. And I had him go downstairs and grab just some like Ritz crackers that we had. And I was like, just bring me these crackers back. I got to get something into my stomach, something to ground me. So we did. I, snacked on a handful of those, drank my water, just calmly kind of calmed down. And then when I started to collect myself again, I went ahead and, finished, got up, washed my hands, and then we went and sat in the bed. And my lower back pain was so bad that I had to sit up, but I had to like lean forward a little. So in bed, I ended up propping some pillows up behind me. And I was reading things online, of course. I was researching things. The pain was getting bad. And I have a huge pain tolerance. Like, dental work, I didn't need Novocaine till I was like 15 years old. You could drill a cavity and I wouldn't even need Novocaine. Like, I was a boss. I broke my wrist when I was a kid. I'm good. Like, my pain tolerance, I never take medicine for headaches unless I absolutely have to. I don't take medicine unless I am in pain and it's lasted a long time. So I have a very high pain tolerance, and these cramps and backache, like I guarantee you they were like an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, but I was feeling them closer to like a 5. So it was very uncomfortable and painful, but I could get through it, you know. I never took medicine when I was on my period anyway, if I did ever have the occasional cramps. So I was like, I can get through it. And so I sat there and I read some articles and everything, and he went to sleep, and, you know, if I needed anything, tap him, wake him up, he's right there. So I start reading things about it and what's going on, and finding out that that's, you know, I was going into shock, and I came out of it, thankfully. And everything said to tell your doctor or midwife right away. So luckily my midwife and I talk on Facebook Messenger, so she's there at the drop of a hat. So I messaged her real quick, and I just kind of let her know exactly what was happening when it, you know, what just happened on the toilet. And then I let her know about, you know, how much blood I had and what was going on. And she told me that she got back to me. I messaged her maybe an hour after, so around like 5, she got back to me at like 5:30 in the morning. And, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, she's not going to see this till the morning. You know, she's sleeping, but thank God she saw it. And she told me, go ahead and go to the ER. She's like, just to be safe. And I was like, well, you know, online it says, you know, you need to be concerned if you're soaking a pad more than a pad per hour. And I wasn't. Like, the blood that was coming out of me was only really when I wiped, versus like actually going onto my feminine pad. And I was like, well, this is, you know, it's not that bad. And she's like, no, I think you need to go for peace of mind, and you need to go for your safety, because we don't want you to go into shock again. So I woke him up. I told him I don't want to go. I feel fine. I can walk around. I'm not dizzy or lightheaded or anything. The blood's not even that bad compared to last year. Last year was a horror story, like straight out of a horror movie. And I was like, but she says, let's go. And he's like, all right. So he gets up, this poor guy with like no sleep. And I packed my bag. I put in, you know, an extra pair of underwear. I brought my cell phone charger. I brought a sleeve of the crackers. I brought a water bottle. I had all my papers. I had just gotten approved for Medicaid. And I needed to do that because of the cost of this. I mean, it's an ER visit. So I had gotten on Medicaid the week prior, and I hadn't gotten my insurance card in the mail yet. So I grabbed all my paperwork that said I got approved and everything, because I needed them to bill Medicaid. So I got all that, gathered it up, put it in there, got my phone, and I was ready to go, because I had experience already. I knew what they were going to do. I knew what kind of testing and what was going to happen. So I was prepared, thankfully. So we make our way to the ER, and we get there like 6 o'clock, and oh my God, best time to go ever. So luckily it wasn't, you know, like a horrible time where there were tons of people there. There was nobody there. So I got into a bed within 15 minutes of walking in that door. Also, forgot to tell you, if you are researching articles, it says multiple times in there that you should collect any tissue that you pass. When I say tissue, I don't mean toilet paper. I mean your uterine lining, the embryo, your sac, the placenta, anything that you pass, any of those clots. It suggests collecting it into a container and taking it to your doctor for testing. So I had done that. I didn't have too many clots, which was surprising to me, because I was basing it off of what happened with my daughter Noelle last year. So I was like, okay, well, I got to take what I got. So I had that all in a sealed container, and I had it ready to go in the bag. I wasn't walking in there with it in my hand. And so I got admitted, and I let them know I had it, but no one asked for it. So apparently they weren't going to test it, which saddens me a bit, because you can find out a lot of things about a pregnancy and a miscarriage when you test the tissue. And especially if you pass a baby, you know, they can do a lot of testing and figure out what was the problem. And since this was my second one, that was something I really like. Hi, I'm trying to get pregnant. I want a baby. So if you could test this, that'd be great. But that's not the way it worked out for me. But I had that in my little care bag just in case they needed it. So I get into a bed, you know, I get my vitals done, like my blood pressure and everything. They make me do it laying down completely flat, sitting up and standing. And then I got my IV, the lovely IV, which I hate. This is the second time I've had an IV, and I just, I don't like it. And about 6:45, I get called. You know, the ultrasound tech comes in. She tells me she's going to take me down there. And I asked if Darren could come. She said no. Last year with the father, he was able to come with me, which was really nice. So I'm like, all right, whatever, wait here. So I went down with her. This is after I filled out paperwork. I had one doctor come in and ask me a bunch of questions, and I answered all of his stuff. I've got 2 nurses that asked me the same questions. I had about like 4 or 5 people ask me the exact same questions, like one after another. Like they could have just all stood there and gotten their information, but they didn't. Whatever. I gave them a rundown of what happened. So back to ultrasound. We are walking down. I go down to ultrasound. And she does both. She tells me she's going to do the abdominal one, see if she sees anything that way, and we're going to do a transvaginal where they put the probe inside of you. So she did. I asked her, can I look? Can I look at the screen? She said, well, I can't turn it towards you because then I can't see it. But if you can see it, by all means, go ahead and look. So I was able to see it while I was laying for the abdominal ultrasound, and I saw the sac. But when I saw the sac, there was this large gray thing in there, like towards the bottom of it. It was like curved, and it was just attached to the bottom of the sac. So that's different than what I saw at my original ultrasound. At my original one, it was a straight up empty sac, nothing in it. So I saw that, you know, I know what's going on. So of course it's not going to look like, oh, there's a baby. No. So then that was pretty quick. Then she has to have me lay back. Well, when I lay back, I no longer can see the screen at the angle I'm at. So sadly, I can't look from the transvaginal one. So she has me take the probe and put it in myself. And, you know, just so you know, if it ever happens or if you've never had a pap smear or anything, it literally is like just a long, pretty skinny, pretty thin probe that they put like, it's like a condom. Some people do use a condom, but it's just like a big old latex protector and then a ton of lube on it. Tons. Not that I needed any. Hi, I'm bleeding. But whatever. So I insert it. Then she takes over. She looks around. And just, there's a TMI moment. So you may want to fast forward a minute or so. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But so she finishes up with the transvaginal. She can't tell me anything because she's not a doctor. The doctor has to tell you, so she can't tell me, you know, if she sees anything or whatever. She removes it, and as she removes it, there is a gush of blood, and it was liquid. There was no clotting or anything. It was pure liquid. It felt like I peed myself, but it was blood. And all of a sudden, I just felt something, a piece of matter, come out of me and come out and hit the sheets. And immediately after that got passed, my lower back pain was gone, like instant. My cramps immediately relaxed and my whole body like took a breath, and it was just like I could breathe again. because the kind of thing that happened in this miscarriage is I actually did go through labor. So I was having contractions. Every 4 minutes I'd have a contraction. And it was horrendous. So shout out to you ladies who have pushed a baby out of there with no medicine, maybe even having medicine. Hey, I know it's painful either way. But if you have given birth to a child vaginally, my props go to you, because that was painful, and all I had to pass was a 5 weeks empty sac. So that is exactly what it was. I stood up. I made sure not to sit on it, so I scooted back. I stood up, and I saw it on the bed, and I knew. I looked at it, and I knew that was it. And now, because of the fact that we didn't see a baby or even a yolk sac or anything the previous week, I just feel like I had what's called a blighted ovum. And I feel that there really wasn't a baby in there. It was still such a molecular cell that it hadn't even gotten to like the potential of being a baby yet. So that's great. I was able to, understand that it wasn't necessarily a baby. It was just my baby's home that I had to expel. So I told her, hey, please ask them if they want this, because I want this tested. That's the sac, and I know it is, and I really, really want this tested. So I run to the bathroom that's in the room. The door's open. I didn't close it. I walk in there. I put my clothes back on. I do this. She gives me a new pad to wear, and she's on the phone with them upstairs, and they don't want it. So here comes the hard part. And that is when I walked back into the ultrasound room, and I instinctually just wanted to hold it. And I didn't want her looking at me like I was crazy or thinking I was weird. At that moment, for some reason, I cared what the only other person in that room, which was this woman, I cared what she would have thought. I shouldn't have, and it's my right that I'm allowed to have that. Just like when these things happen, whether or not you're only like 4 weeks or if you're like 15 weeks and you pass a full baby, you are entitled, and you by law are allowed to have the remains so that you can go about, your burial and your disposal of it. You are allowed to. But I didn't know what to do in that moment. I was nervous. So I just saw it, and, I said my prayer in my head, and she it's one of the hardest parts of my story. This is where I ended up actually crying at the hospital. But she wrapped up the sheet and tossed it into the laundry bag. And that's where it went. So with my first one, she had a burial at sea. That's the best way I can explain it. In the restroom. So that was something that tore me up about that pregnancy. And so now a second time comes around where I don't know what to do with it. But at the same time, being a mother, that's all I have that's left of it. So I, began crying, and she was kind of cleaning up the room in general, putting things away, not really looking at me. And I lost it. I was crying. And, you know, she's telling me, okay, so what we're going to do when we go back up there, they're going to do this. And she finally turned around and looked at me and she's like, are you okay? And I was like, yep, I'm having a moment. And I was like, just let me know. Go ahead, continue, I'm listening. And when she wasn't looking, I just basically said, you know, goodbye to the laundry pail. And then we started to walk back to my room. And that's where I kind of, you know, I just started crying. And Darren asked me, you know, like, what's wrong? And I took my moment. It took about a minute or so, and I let it out. And I told him what happened, and, you know, he held me, and that's kind of it. So I composed myself after that. And all we were waiting on as far as that goes is, you know, what my blood work came back as, because they had taken my blood and everything, and the ultrasound results. So we ended up waiting probably, I would estimate about an hour and a half longer than we really needed to. But, you know, I was there for my safety to make sure no complications happened. And the thing is, like, I wasn't passing really anything anymore. Like, I had passed a couple larger clots at home before I went to the ER, and then afterwards, you know, when I was at the ER, not a whole lot. And I was not soaking pads. Like, it wasn't this gushing of releasing what was all in my uterus or anything. It really wasn't that bad. And after I passed the sac down in the ultrasound room, like, the pain went from, when I went in there and they asked me, I said it was a 6. It started to get up to an 8 right before I went to ultrasound. And then afterwards, I told Darren, I was like, after that, the second that came out of me, like, the pain was gone. And so I was like, I'm down to like a 2 pain level. Like, I wasn't having contractions anymore. It was more of just a soreness because of what my muscles had just been going through for like 7 hours. So we waited. Trying to think if anything else momentous happened during that time. It didn't. We started to wind down because, I mean, I had 2 hours of sleep. He had 2 and like maybe an hour and a half of like on and off sleep, because every time I moved, he was like, are you okay? Before we went to the ER. I was like, yeah. So he had barely any sleep. And so we decided, all right, it's going to take a while. So I laid down and he put his head at the bed and we kind of started to rest. He fell asleep. So I started to get restless because I'm like, what are we waiting on? Like, okay, I'm listening to my body. I'm pretty much done here. I was peeing a lot still, and I wasn't even hooked up to fluids. Like, I was hooked up to fluids for maybe like a total of like 8 minutes of the entire 4-hour stay. And that was because I kept having to pee like all the time. So I just kept going. So we didn't hook me up anymore, really. I was drinking water. So I got up and I asked a nurse, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, can I get this IV out? That's my least favorite thing is, I hate IVs. I don't know. They scare the crap out of me. The guy who did it was great. It didn't hurt. Last year, oh my God, the woman didn't know what she was doing. So I'm like, can I get this out of me? Can we go soon? We're really tired. We're really ready to go. So finally I get, a girl that I was talking to earlier in the day. And I was like, hey, we just want to know, like, can we leave soon? She's like, I got your discharge papers right here. So she comes over to me. I have her write down my HCG level. On Monday when I went and got my blood work, I was at 20,000, 474. And when I left the hospital, when they took my blood at least, it was 13,100 and some, like 167 or something. So I went from 20,000 to 13,000. So I lost 7,000 levels of HCG in 2 days. Pretty quick. I was about 8 weeks pregnant if we base it off of my last month's period. Last year on my first miscarriage, I left that hospital at 4,000 at 9 weeks. I lost that baby fast. So big difference. Tomorrow's Friday, the 27th, I go in at 9 a.m. for some blood work with my midwife for HCG again. Typically what you do is once a week you get your HCG tested and you check until you hit under 5 on your HCG levels. Once you're 5 or under, you're good. Miscarriage has completed. You're done. So that's basically what happened. I got discharged. They didn't really do too much of a follow-up discussion with me before I left because I knew what to do already. My doctor did consider it on my discharge papers. It does say incomplete miscarriage, and that's because there was stuff remaining in my uterus on the ultrasound. However, that ultrasound was read while that thing was still in me. So while I still had the whole sac and anything else that was in there, that whole bundle, if she did an ultrasound after that came out of me, they would have had a better reading at what was left in my body. So I haven't really been bleeding much at all. Like, I can wear one pad for an entire day and I'm not even soaking a fourth of it. Like, I'm not bleeding much anymore. It's basically completed. So since it was an incomplete miscarriage, I do have to go, see a doctor. You usually have to see your OBGYN 3 to 5 days after you are in the hospital anyway. What they're going to do is they're going to check my tissue. They're going to check my cervix to see if it's still dilated. They're going to see if there's any remnants in there. They may do an ultrasound to double check, what's left in your uterus. Because if you leave anything in there and your body doesn't naturally expel everything that's in there, you can get a serious infection that could lead to really bad things in the future. So there are 3 different types of miscarriage that you can have. You can either pass it completely naturally and your body just gets rid of it. You can take a medication form that basically brings on your period, flushes everything out. And then there's something called a DNC, which is, I can't pronounce the C word of it, but what they do is they're going to dilate your cervix if it needs to be, and they will either suction or they will scrape whatever is remaining in your uterus. And it sounds dirty and bad and gross, but it's what needs to happen for your health as a mother. Because if anything stays in there, it's detrimental. So I passed my first baby naturally. Boom, done. I didn't have anything left in there when I went and saw my doctor. So I see my doctor Wednesday at 3 p.m., so exactly 7 days after the miscarriage. That's just the earliest they can get me in. But I do see on Monday, I'm going to my midwife again for blood work. So I'm going to get my blood work done tomorrow, find out my HCG, and I'll go again on Monday to check it again to see how far it's dropping down. And then from there, we'll do it once a week till I get down where I need to be. Based on where I'm at, it's Thursday evening. I don't even know what time it is. 7 o'clock at night. I am wearing the same pad from like noon, and there's like barely anything on it. So I'm pretty sure I completely passed it. However, I am still having some muscle spasms down there. Not so much lower back pain, no contractions. I did have contractions last night still, but nothing happened. Like nothing came out from them. I didn't pass anything else. So I'm pretty much slowly coming down. Like it's pretty much done now. So when I go into my doctor on Wednesday, they'll go ahead and check to make sure everything's gone. If not everything's gone, I may have the option to take a pill and have that flush it out, but I may have to have a DNC, which I'm praying I don't have to, because that's just terrifying. And I don't want it. I'm hoping my body did everything naturally like it did the first time. So wish me luck on that. I'll let you know what, the verdict is next week. But that was basically what happened. So if anyone was interested, if anyone wanted to hear what happens to a body during that, there you go. As always, you're welcome to ask me anything. I'll go ahead and answer all questions. And if you've been through this, I'm so sorry for your loss. Like, I'm sorry that anyone has to go through this and experience this, both the fathers and the mothers. Like, it's a family ordeal. My parents are so proud of me for being so strong, and I mean, it's something I can't help. So why should I sit here and beat myself up? You gotta stay positive. We're gonna get right back into it as soon as I get all cleared and my body's healthy and is ready to try again. I'm gonna try again, because this could take me a while, and I want, a minimum of 3 children. So I gotta start now at 25. So that's my story. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.